It will be interesting to see if they decide to trade one of them, which one they trade. And I think it'll be George Pickens, but I think they would get more for CeeDee Lamb if that's the route you want to go. If you go back to the Amari Cooper, they had the two receivers in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, as you said, was making $20 million a year, Mike. And they didn't want to pay two receivers that much money. But that's the year that CeeDee Lamb passed Amari Cooper and was the better receiver, had more yards, but everybody was still calling Amari Cooper the number one receiver. He's still your number one receiver. We're in that same situation a little bit now with the reversed with CeeDee Lamb now. Really kind of he was the number two receiver this year. And again, I think a lot of that had to do with the injuries. I think he's still a number one receiver. I think he's still one of the best receivers in the NFL. But the fact is, George Pickens had the better year this year.
Before I drag us too far down the path, I'm doing the math here on the fly. It looks like they deal with a $42.8 million dead cap charge if they traded him before June 1. So I think that ends the possibility for now.
Yeah.
For now. Next year it would be $12.6 million lower to do it pre-June 1.
Okay.
And each passing year, it gets easier. You know, they may be stubborn enough and delusional enough to think that they could tag him twice and then trade CeeDee Lamb and sign him. The problem is after you tag the guy twice, there's no way to keep him from becoming a free agent because the third tag becomes average of the 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Cap number. So you can't do it, or a 44% raise over the second tag. You just can't tag a guy 3 times without it being exorbitant. But they may be thinking, let's kick the can here a little bit, and maybe next year we pay George Pickens and we trade CeeDee Lamb. They may just want to get through this year and then make the decision between one or the other next year.
That would be that from a team-centric perspective.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely what you would want to do. But again, is the
Pickens going to go along with it? He's not going to go along with it.
Is it 1 year, $28 million really for me? As good as I've been, as good as I just showed you I was, as essential as I was to the offense, and you want to pay me $28 million for 1 year? That's it? Come on, no. That is at least the attitude I would take if I were George Pickens' agent or George Pickens himself. And that means then you're not going to have him at the offseason program. He doesn't even need to be at training camp. I mean, you were sort of making the same point earlier, but he's not an employee of the team until he signs something that, puts him under contract for 2026. And so then you're kind of getting into the same situation that CeeDee Lamb was in a couple years ago, right, where he missed all of training camp pretty much, and then he signed a week before the season or like sometime right in that muddy waters of right before week 1. And if you miss all of that time in the offseason, I know they're not going to a new offense, but it affects the start of your year at the very least.
Affected CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it's, of course, from a team-centric perspective, you want that 1 year, $28 million, and you kick the can down the road. But if you're George Pickens, you got to be the pebble in the shoe that says that's not comfortable. That's not comfortable for me.
The cap number is an issue, too, because if they tag him and he takes it, he counts for $28 million in cash and cap space.
Yes.
They're going to have to restructure Dak's deal and CeeDee Lamb's deal. Dak currently has a cap number of $74 million, and his salary's $40. And it's very easy. You reduce the salary to the minimum. You take the balance. You spread it over 5 total years. But still, they're going to have a hell of a reckoning with Dak at some point. And with the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. This is the problem with having one of these market-level deals. You keep pushing the cap numbers into future years. At some point, all that money's going to hit. They got $38 million under CeeDee Lamb this year with a $25 million salary, so they can do the same thing. They have the term in there that allows them to automatically restructure. They'll do it. But how many players like that can you have where you've got this massive contract that you're constantly restructuring and you're constantly putting cap dollars into future years? How many that's the core question. On your entire team, how many superstar contracts can you afford to truly have? You want to have some superstars who are under their rookie contracts that, hey, sorry, we can't give you a new deal until after your 3rd year. When you get to veteran deals that are market value, you really are tying your hands behind your back, or at least one hand behind your back, to try to put a roster together. If you've got 3 on offense, whatever 3, pick 3.
Yes.
Offensive lineman, quarterback, tight end. Offensive lineman, running back, receiver, whatever it is. But you're getting 3 of 11 that you're paying that kind of money to. It becomes hard to operate the rest of your team.
And guess what? Tyler Smith's going to want money. And he deserves money. He's played like it. He deserves to be paid more money. So that's coming too on the Cowboys offense. So yeah, and their problems are on defense.
And the most effective way to improve and address that problem is to draft and develop, because the young players are cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get a lot of them. You can get 7 of them a year, more if you play your cards right and do some trades. And they do have extras from the trades they've done. But that's going to be the key. I think that's the one kind of hidden point in all of this. As they try to figure out what they're going to do with George Pickens, it puts a major emphasis on getting their draft picks right.
Oh, yeah.
And finding guys who can play, especially on the defensive side of the ball, quickly, and who can make a difference quickly, because that's going to be what they're relying upon as they make their way through this salary cap minefield with Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens.
And they've got no second-day picks, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, unless they use one of the, and at this point, right, and they could use one of those first-round picks, trade back, pick up some more, in theory at least, and get at least more shots at the dartboard. But it always is this interesting roster construction question, right? Once you get to a certain point with your quarterback, which the Texans are going to come up to it, right? With C.J. Stroud, we'll see what the Panthers do with Bryce Young. But it's always this: okay, now that the quarterback is in line to get paid, how do we then construct the rest of the team around him? It's one of the things, at least, that has been impressive to me about the Chiefs' run. Right, they paid Patrick Mahomes, and they continue to pay Patrick Mahomes, and they give him more cash, and they have the structure of the deal that they can rework all the time. But they've still been able to put a competitive team, for the most part, around Mahomes, right? And they, until this year, had always reached overtime of the AFC Championship game. It's kind of the same now. You're looking at what the Bills are doing with Josh Allen, right? What do the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson? You have to be able to field a competitive team around these guys. And that really does put the emphasis on, are you drafting and developing good players? Because if you don't, then that's when you hit that wall. And you can't break through that wall if you don't have the kinds of players around the quarterback, around the franchise QB, that will then elevate the team the rest of the way that it needs to be in order to make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's what's interesting about the Patriots this year. They've got Drake May. They now know that they have a young quarterback that they really truly can build around. And that's why this year, and it's not necessarily that great of a free agent class, that's where you go for it. Because you've got this year cost control. Next year, he's eligible for a deal. And if you are a potential MVP quarterback, there's no way you should be playing without a new deal in year 4, in my opinion.
Here's the wrinkle that the Cowboys are also going to have to deal with: their propensity to go straight to the player. Are they going to play that game? They played that game with Javonte Williams, I'm told, per sources.
Okay.
And we know they like to do that. We know Jerry likes to go throw his arm around the player and say how great it is to be a Dallas Cowboy and how you can make all this extra money because you got the star on your helmet, and don't you want to be part of something great, and we can't pay everybody, and we really love you and we really want you here. And they cut out David Mulugeta the last time around. Jerry Jones openly disrespected him. Didn't know his name, didn't know who he was.
Said he didn't know his name.
Right. Yes. But said it out. I mean, said it out loud and disrespected him openly. Yes. And David Mulugeta did not take the bait. And David Mulugeta ultimately won. That's the thing. This goes both ways. Are there bad feelings from Mulugeta toward Jerry? And is there resentment from Jerry toward Mulugeta because the last time we squared off, I lost. This time around, I have to win. And will that make them even more determined to drive a hard bargain, to hold George Pickens' feet to the fire? If he says, I'm not going to show up for 28, I want to be traded, we're not going to trade you, you're under contract to us. And if they can hold his rights indefinitely. I think that this is the Le'Veon Bell thing. I think that in theory, like there's a point where you can sit out the whole year like Bell did in 2018 and become a free agent and not be tagged the next year. But I just wonder if they'll take a hard line and not give in at any point because of the perception that they gave in and lost on Micah Parsons.
Well, here's the thing. Jerry thinks he won. We all know he lost, but Jerry thinks he
says
won.
he did, but does he really? Does he really? I mean, he can bullshit everybody else. Can he bullshit himself?
No, I really think he does. I think he feels like they got Quentin Williams out of this, that they're going to get another great defensive player out of this. Probably an edge rusher is going to come in and be as good as Micah Parsons. I think he truly believes he won this trade. I believe that in his heart he believes he won this trade.
And then what constitutes winning with George Pickens, right? Is it then getting him to sign the long-term deal? Is it getting him to play on the franchise tender? I don't necessarily know. I mean, ostensibly, winning would be, hey, we've got this guy, and he's still playing for our team.
And he's happy, and he's productive, and he's motivated, and he's here.
Yes. All of those things, which is what I was going to say if you hadn't just interrupted me. But that's okay.
Sorry.
but that's what it has to be, you know? And I don't know that what else would constitute winning other than those things.
All right, what do we think is going to happen? We've got three different possibilities.
Okay.
Signs a franchise tender, signs a multi-year deal, becomes the highest paid receiver. Let's not go through each one with our scale of 1 to 10. Just tell me, what do you think is going to happen to those three options?
I think that he ends up playing on the franchise tender.
Ooh.
They'll have to add some money to it, some incentives, something to get him to come in. I think they'll do that. I think he'll play this season on the franchise tender, and I think he will go somewhere else next year, whether it's a trade somewhere else or whether he hits free agency, goes somewhere else. But I think he'll play for the Cowboys this season.
Yeah, I think he'll play for the Cowboys, too. I don't think he'll sign a multi-year deal. I don't think he will become the highest-paid receiver. I don't necessarily see that for him. But I do think that he will play on a deal that's somewhere in between, let's say, 32 and 37 million. That would make a lot of sense to me.
I'm going to make a wild guess here and say that he signs a short-term deal. Mm-hmm. Let's say a 2-year deal that pays him $35 a year.
Yeah.
And may or may not have the franchise tag on the back end. That's the end result of this. That's my wild-ass guess that that's what's going to happen.
That
would
seems
be
like a
for the
good
Cowboys.
guess. Yeah, that would be a good compromise, right? Nobody's getting everything they want, but everybody's getting something.
Yeah.
So that does strike me as a solid compromise, yeah.
And I say 2-year deal because they're going to want to figure out a way to push the cap numbers into future years, and there may be some voidable years on the back end so they can spread it out. It's harder to do that with a 1-year deal, although I think it's doable. There's all sorts. Every year we go through this, this team, they have a cap issue. What are they going to do? And they always figure it out.
Yeah,
There's so many tricks and devices under the salary cap to figure out your situation and to find a way out of that maze. And I think that they will do that if it comes to it. The harder problem is making George Pickens happy, making him motivated. I think that's the key. He has to be motivated, and you can't run the risk of tagging the guy and having him pissed off and stay away from everything. And then when he shows up, he's just lollygagging and just
he's not engaged.
Collecting his money, and he's not engaged. It hurts him, but it hurts you too.
Yes, it does.
All right. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.